Hello, fellow Bluebaggers, and welcome back to Bluebaggers Edge. And we are here, of course, to preview the Round 11 encounter with the GWS Giants on our home turf, if you want to call it that, at Marvel Stadium. And a bit of an interesting encounter, this one. Obviously, our form has started to taper yet again after a bit of decent run of form, albeit in West Coast, North Melbourne, good win against the Cats. St Kilda's probably a little bit iffy, but we were, we did pretty well considering we were up against the ropes and, Ross line game plan, which was kind of employing a lot of stoppage work and whatnot. But last week, it wasn't there. Didn't hit the mark at all against equally struggling side in Sydney. So we face another side up there on the coast in the Giants, and they haven't been in the best form. They've tapered off as well. They are still clinging on to 8th spot, whilst we're, I think, currently about 14th at the moment. So obviously not where we want to be. So let's have a look at the ins and outs as they were named. And as you can see here, there were a couple of unforced changes and a couple of forced changes. So of those that were unforced, we've obviously Pitnet has made way for TDK, who makes a return to the side. Much welcome return at that. Frankie Evans, as we spoke about in the review of the Sydney game, he shows a lot of heart, a lot of endeavour, but he just does not have the talent to sustain a career at senior level, unfortunately. So he makes way, and rightfully so. And Jordan Boyd as well, he goes out. I should say these are the start of those forced changes. So those are the two unforced changes, Frankie Evans and Pitnet. Jordan Boyd goes out through concussion, unfortunately. Sauce as well through what is a groin injury. And Lige as well, he's out through personal reasons, and we wish him all the very best. So in terms of the ins, Sam Doherty, who's had a couple of weeks now where he had, 37 and 39 disposals or thereabouts. So welcome return there, and we do hope that he does come back and, carry across that form that he showed in the VFL. He's such a talented player. He's a great leader, as we know. He's been a great servant of the football club. And, this in all likelihood will be his last season at senior level. And just want to see him go out on a high. And very rarely do you see guys go out on their own terms. And he's in a little bit of a rough patch at the moment. Rightfully went back to the VFL. But, we do need his experience. And, hopefully he can make a season of it starting from this round. Blake Acres returns to the team as well after having that shoulder injury. I thought actually he might be out longer term than what he has been, but welcome return for him. TDK as well to bolster our ruck. Now, Pitnet started the game against Grundy. I thought he was kind of, you could probably say, breaking even. But as the game drew on, Grundy just had his way with him. And I was expecting it. I spoke about it in the preview of that Sydney game, that he was going to be run ragged by Grundy around the ground, especially because he's more that lumbering, old-school ruckman, whereas Grundy's kind of that extra player at the stoppage, much like TDK, and can really make use of his talents at ground level and almost be that extra midfielder, whereas Pitnet is just virtually just a ruckman. Doesn't do too much around the ground, and no real surprise there for seeing him make way. Fog Dog, he comes back in as well, that pressure forward, and as such, Frankie Evans isn't needed. And Harry O'Farrell, he was a bit of a surprise as well, albeit has shown some really nice form in the VFL. So I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big advocate of rewarding good form from players that are showing it in the VFL. And he comes into the team to really bolster our stocks, considering we've obviously lost a big key cog in Sauce in defence. So all the very best to him. And hopefully he can have a very nice debut. Now, with the Giants, out goes Finn Callaghan with that shoulder injury. Toby McMullen goes out. Lee Kalia comes into the team, and this is the bloke that I was hoping we would have a bit of a crack at in the trade period, but wasn't to be. And now, St Kilda are apparently after him, so hopefully we still can have a crack at him, because we do need as much depth as we can in defence. And as we've seen, for Farrell to come in off the back of, albeit some good form, it does sort of expose the fact that we don't have much in terms of depth in defence. And the fact that McGovern has, I think he played a pretty ordinary game against Sydney, a lot of turnovers via disposal, which just isn't good enough. And I just hate the fact that there's a lack of depth there, because it means that guys like him are allowed to stick around in the team because we don't have guys to replace him. So same applies for Motlop. I've spoken about him ad nauseum. He gets another gig because we don't have anyone to replace him with, albeit I think structurally we don't need as many small forwards as what we're carrying, but that's just another discussion point for another time. Lee Kalia, as I said, he comes in, and Harry Ralston as well, youngster for the Giants. Now, let's have a quick look at how we've gone in our previous encounters. The three most recent encounters now, we did play them in the official preseason game, and we had our way with them by the tune of 58 points. Prior to that, as we know, now this is the game that burnt into my memory, and I imagine a lot of you out there as well, just in terms of knowing, as we click into this game here, what transpired, because that was the turning point of our 2024 season, and it was the downturn of our season, because just look at this. We're nearly 40 points up in that game on the Giants' home deck, and then we just went to water. Bang, 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 and they ended up winning by 12 points in the end. We kind of made our way back because the Giants took their foot off the pedal, but it was virtually like a 70-point turnaround almost in that game, and just wasn't good enough. It really pains me to go back and look at this, but that's the most recent, I guess, in-season game against them. And prior to that, we had a nice win at Marvel, which was that game there, 17-15, 117 to 15-8, 98. That was a really hard-fought win. I remember that. I was there with a mate on his Bucks, and it was a bit of an arm wrestle early on, and then we started to get on top. The Giants, they got on top in the sort of second quarter, and then we bang, 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 and run away with it really in the end. So it was a nice win. And I'm hoping that this is kind of what we will see on Saturday. But, with our current form, it's a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde, as I've labelled it, where our bad is terrible and our good is fantastic. So we'll just have to wait and see what we get. Interesting game here for Nick Haynes, facing his former team for the first time. Been in incredible form, and has been, I think, one of our better players after such a slow start to his career in the Navy Blue. But really credit to him for turning things around. Let's have a quick look at the stats side of things in terms of averages across the board. So for disposals, the Giants, they average 10 more than us. Inside 50s, we actually average 6 more than the Giants. And again, this is good in theory, but if you're not converting that to scoring opportunities and more so goals, what's the use? And that's a big part of our issue with, when we enter inside 50 and really making the most of our opportunities. Disposal efficiency, 4% virtually in favour of the Giants. Efficiency inside 50, this is what I'm speaking about here, 43.4% to the Giants, 52.3%. Now, they're really making the most. Despite the fact they're averaging less inside 50s, they're actually being more efficient inside 50 and converting more of those, I guess, inside 50s to goals. Stoppages, hitouts, very, very even for both teams. Clearances, now we have 5 in our favour compared to the Giants. Centre clearances, stoppage and centre clearances kind of make up the bulk of that. Possessions-wise, contested possessions, we average 10 more than the Giants. Uncontested, now this is where the Giants have a little bit of sway here. 17 more than us on average. And turnovers, very, very even for both teams there. 0.2 more in favour of the Giants there. Or in our favour, I should say. They're actually having more turnovers. For the marks, we have 4 more than the Giants. Marks inside 50. We actually average a little bit more than the Giants. Contested marks, 2 more than the Giants. Scoring-wise, the Giants actually average 1 goal more than us, virtually, or half a goal, and behinds, very, very even. Defensively, we average more tackles to the tune of 9 compared to the Giants, and tackles inside 50, we average about 4 more than the Giants. 1%ers, very, very even for both teams. And that is the tale of the tape there. Now, as I always do, let's have a look at Willow Ratings, where we can have a little bit more of a deep dive in terms of, talking about score sources and where we concede goals to opposition teams, and then comparatively where the Giants concede most of their scores and where they actually score more of their goals in terms of the origins and score sources. So let's have a look first off in terms of the averages for both teams for goals via kick-ins. And we sorted here, and the Giants, this is a little bit scary here because I know that we concede. This is for the past 5 matches, by the way, and we concede a fair few goals to kick-ins via that method. So I know that for a fact, which we'll have a look at in a moment, but the Giants, they actually score the most of any team in the competition goals via that avenue of kick-ins. So compare it to us, and we actually score the 4th least via those means. We don't go end to end. So let's have a quick look here whilst we're here. Let's have a look at the opposition averages, and look at this. The Giants concede the least amount of goals via kick-ins, whilst we concede the second most via kick-ins. So this is danger territory here. This is really an area of the ground that we, structurally we need to make sure that we are forcing the ball, keeping it within our half, and especially within our inside 50 defensively. It's a little bit of a worry. We should say forward defensively because, via kick-ins, obviously they're kicking in from their defense from our forward line. So it's up to our forwards, and this is where the likes of Fogarty and the like should be, coming into effect here to make sure that we can contain the ball inside our forward 50 when they're making the kick-ins. But we've just been so lax because we've been allowing opposition teams to just kick in the ball willy-nilly, get, overlap over the top, drawing the man, a lot of uncontested play. And then by the time the ball gets to, our defense, their forward line, we're just out of the loop. We're not playing man on man, easy marks on the lead, so on and so forth. So again, danger territory here. And this is what I'll be watching very, very closely in this encounter because this is an area of the ground where the Giants can expose us massively. And we have been exposed massively in recent games. So big issue there. Let's have a look back at team averages, and we will have a look in terms of score sources via stoppages. And we actually score the 5th most via stoppages. Compare that to the Giants, and they actually score the least via stoppages, which is interesting. Let's see if they concede via stoppages. So the Giants, yes, there you go. So they concede the 4th most via stoppages. So this is an area of the ground where we should be capitalising. Compare it to us, we concede a bit further down the list compared to the Giants, but considering it isn't an area of the ground where they capitalise and it is a strength, it's more so a weakness than anything. So we shouldn't have to worry too much about that. But however, having said that, we can't be too lazy at stoppages defensively because it's not their strength. So we need to be both on for the defensive setup at stoppages, but also going on the attack because Giants can really concede goals via stoppages, as we've seen. So let's have a look in terms of score sources via turnover. And we actually score the 6th most in the competition via turnovers, whilst the Giants, they're just below the AFL average of 42.8. Let's have a look at the opposition averages. And if they're conceding via turnover, because it is sort of an area of our strength, then we can capitalise here. So let's have a look, turnovers. And yes, so they concede the 4th most via turnovers. So again, stoppages, we need to really capitalise on that. That's a weakness of theirs. And likewise, they concede the 4th most via turnover in the competition. Compare it to us, we actually concede the 2nd least via turnover, which is interesting in the previous 5 games. So again, big area of the ground that we need to make the most of things there. In terms of score origins, I mean, it kind of lends itself to a similar sort of overlap there. But yeah, it's, look at defensive half, goals via defensive half. We score the 6th least. Forward half, we actually score the 5th most, which is no real surprise there. And centre bounce, we're just above the AFL average. Meanwhile, the Giants, they average the least via centre bounce, which again links in with the fact that they don't score many goals through stoppages and opposition averages. We'll go forward half here. For the Giants, they are the 4th least amount of scores through their forward half. So again, they slingshot the ball from end to end, and that's really where they score a majority of their goals. Less so compared to when it's actually the ball's in their forward half. So they like to really transition the ball out of their defense to the forward line and score via those means. and we should see it here. So the Giants, they score the 6th most via defensive half. So again, lends to that point. Opposition averages, let's have just a quick look here. Defensive half, the Giants, they concede the 4th least via defensive half, and we are a few rungs above them. So we concede a little bit more. Forward half, the Giants, they concede, the 3rd most via forward half score origins. And centre bounce should be a similar thing. There you go. They concede the most via centre bounces. So, in essence, defensively, when they're kicking the ball in, we need to contain the ball in our forward half and not allow them to slingshot and go end to end. And centre bounce through stoppage work, that's a weakness of the Giants where we really need to capitalise on that and really generate some scores out of, because that is a strength at the end of the day. The strength of our team is it should be our midfield. And at times it's being very, very lax. As we saw against the Crows especially, it was a shitstorm. And as we saw against Sydney as well, it was really lacking as well. So I think we need to really switch on here, and we're finding there's lapses in these games in that area of the ground where it should be a strength. So it has to be a strength because that's a weakness of the Giants. And if we don't capitalise, if we're not on our game in the middle, we won't be able to score, and we won't be able to kick a winning score via those means where we can really expose the Giants. Defensively for the Giants as well, I mean, speaking to them, which is not really something I made a point of, which I should, because their defence is incredible. They've got Taylor, they've got Buckley, they've got Iden, Whitfield, who generates a fair few scoring opportunities, and he's kind of the catalyst as well when we're talking about scores, when they're slingshotting from end to end. His incredible footwork and foot skills and efficiency is top-notch. So Lockie Ash, another one, Himmelberg. If they shut down our forward line, we're going to be in a little bit of a struggle, I think. Like Jesse Hogan, he at times can expose us and has been in some decent enough form. We have to kind of be on top of things there to make sure that we aren't exposed too much. We're almost at the mid-season point now. We've got ourselves to a point where we can really, really kickstart our season. And I thought that was coming off the back of, our recent wins, but we're still faltering and we need to really get on top of that. Structurally, I think it is a little bit of an issue because, losing Sauce is a big, big loss, but we'll just have to make do, really. But that's it, ladies and gents. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Really do appreciate your company. And with that, we will see you in the review episode. Fingers crossed for a win, and fingers crossed for no more faltering, no more Jekyll and Hyde. We just want consistency. Let's do it, Baggers.